Hello, everybody. It is the final revelation, and today I kind of wanted to talk about something a little different. This actually has to do with something relevant I'll actually talk about in another video, but for the sake of time, I kind of just wanted to make it two separate videos. And you'll know what I'm talking about by the end of the video. But I kind of wanted to talk about today Christian movies, Christian TV shows, and the like. Not really delving into the realm of the Christian music, but I mean, I guess the same kind of goes for that as well. But I'm really talking about just the TV shows and the movies, and how it seems that the Christian movies and TV shows aren't really living up to I wouldn't even say living up to, they're just not good. They're just not good. I mean, when you take movies like Prince of Egypt, when you take movies like Joseph King of Dreams, those were the early movies made by DreamWorks, I think back in the 90s, early 2000s. Those movies, I think, were really great movies for many reasons. I don't have biases towards the new movies or towards the more modern ones. I just watch them and I just think to myself that they're just not good. I'm not going to get too specific about like names and stuff like that of certain movies when it comes to like what's being bad, but I'm not saying that these are the worst movies ever. I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that have to be dealt with when Christian movie makers or Christian producers and all that stuff want to actually reach into an audience that's not just for Christians, but that's also for people who don't believe. I think one of the things that movies like Prince of Egypt or even God's Not Dead wasn't too bad. But going back to just Prince of Egypt, and you'll know why I'm referencing this movie a lot. One, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Whether Christian and whatever, it's definitely one of the top movies for me. And I feel like the reason why is the animation was amazing. The story, obviously, following the story of Moses, from the book of Exodus, and how he had to lead God's people out of well, he was one of God's people, but you know what I'm saying. He had to lead them out of Egypt into the promised land. But for those who haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend that you watch it. For those who think that Christian movies are bad and you haven't seen that movie, I would recommend you to watch it, because I feel like the perspective of how Christian movies are nowadays are how people, that's gonna make people, like specifically non-believers, that's going to make them think how they should or how they maybe view us. It builds them kind of like a like I said, I guess, perspective of how they would view us, because I feel like a lot of the Christian movies nowadays are very corny, very uptight. There doesn't really seem to be, it doesn't seem realistic. The Christian life isn't one, it's not an easy one, and it's not something that's just all clean cut and everything like that, and everyone's always wearing button-up t-shirts and tucked in with belts and ties. That's not how it is. And I know that a lot of these movies don't always capture kind of like that main theme that they go for these days, but it seems very much so that it's a lot of them. I know, like, I'm not going to say all movies nowadays and all Christian movies do this, but it's a lot of them. And I feel like one of the main things, at least for me, that is capturing, or that has captured me when it comes to the watching Christian movies and everything like that, as a Christian, by the way, they just don't seem realistic enough. It doesn't, like, the life of a Christian isn't an easy one. The life before we become Christian obviously wasn't pretty, and I feel like what a lot of these movies don't really do is that they don't capture that realness. And I know it's just like, then you ask, well, how can you balance out capturing realness of the world while having it being a movie that everyone can watch, because Christian movies should be movies that you should be able to watch with your kids, right? I feel like there should be movies that Christian movies that you should be able to watch with your kids, but then there also needs to be some Christian movies that don't necessarily always have to appeal to the whole family. I'm not saying let's make a rated R movie that has sex scenes and, a whole bunch of killing and everything in it. But, I mean, as Christians, we read the Bible, and that has a lot of horrific stuff in it, a lot of bad things that happened in it. And I'm not saying that I'm condoning, or I'm not saying that, I want this to be this should be what's in the movies. But I'm just saying God himself obviously put into the Bible certain things that obviously we should know, and that has to do with persecution and all that kind of stuff. Not saying a lot of these movies don't show it, but they don't really grasp the realness of it. If we're trying to appeal to, and I feel like what they want to do and what they're trying to do but they're failing to do, at least sometimes, is that they want to appeal to an audience that isn't Christian, so an atheist audience, or not even just an atheist audience, just people who don't believe in the God of the Bible, whatever, right? I feel like it's really what they try to hit but really miss is this realness that we really have. What is the humanity behind the main character that actually leads them to find God? And even when they find God, what is the humanity still left? It's not like once we become Christian, oh, now we're just, saving the world and nothing bad happens to us. And even if things bad happen to us, everything's all clean cut, cookie cutter. That's not how it is. We can take, for example, David from the Bible. He was, a man after God's own heart, leader of Israel and everything, right? King, okay? But he ended up, doing what he did, and for those of you who don't know the story of David from the Bible, he was a man, like I said, after God's own heart. But he ended up going, basically having an affair with one of the soldiers' wives, and then had him killed in battle, and then had a kid with that woman, right? So remember, this is after David and Goliath, right? This is while he's king, I said. And it's just kind of like I feel like Christian movies should be capturing certain elements and certain themes that the Bible has in it. And I feel like we don't. I feel like there should be a movie where we take certain elements of the Bible, or not even just certain, we take elements of the Bible. Certain, why not? Don't nitpick. Let's just take everything. Take everything from the Bible. Excuse me what I just said about certain elements, but take everything from the Bible and put it into a movie. Okay? We have, and I'm not saying that, we need to be relevant. I'm not trying to go with that argument with, we need to be relevant, and, we need to be more secular in order to appeal to the secular audience. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying you have movies like Prince of Egypt, for reference. That was one of the greatest biblical movies of all times, even hailed by atheists to be one of the greatest movies they've ever seen. Not just because of the animation and all that stuff, but just because of how the story was told and how it really connected with what the with the biblical account of what happened in the book of Exodus concerning Moses and how he led the people out of Egypt. So it just things like that, and even though it was a biblical movie, it did have some dark tones and dark themes and settings and everything in the movie that made it feel realistic, that made it feel raw. Like when we saw the plagues that were coming down onto Egypt, when we saw the brutality of how the Egyptians were treating God's people and everything like that, and the anger and the frustration, the sadness, the emotion that went with the characters that were embedded in the story, because it made you feel human and it made you connect with them, and it made you feel as if you were actually in their shoes. It made you feel sympathy for them. And I feel like that's a lot of the things that the Christian movies nowadays are really missing. Aside from the the visuals and everything like that, I know a lot of the Christian movies I'm referring to are really live action, with real people. In Prince of Egypt was a cartoon. But tell me, how can you get a movie that is animated, and you can feel more for an animated character who, remember, they have to draw the emotions and all this other stuff and animate the emotions? How can I feel more for something that was drawn than for a human who should be able to replicate emotions and everything a lot better? You get what I'm saying? It's like I'm watching a movie with a real person, and they're trying to, let's just say, convey something sad or something that just didn't happen, like the way they planned, or I don't know, just something not good that's happening in the story, and they're trying to convey some kind of negative emotion, and I'm not really feeling that emotion. I'm not connecting with the story in order to really feel and grasp what they're trying to feel. But on the other hand, I can watch an animated movie and I can grasp and feel what they were trying to do. with the characters and everything like that. And this is kind of like one of those videos where I just really want your guys' discussion down in the comment section, excuse me. And I kind of want to know what you guys think. What are some of the things that you think a lot of the Christian movies nowadays are missing? I'm welcoming anyone to answer this question, whether it be Christian, non-Christian. Like, I want just people's opinions for anyone watching this video. And if you're an atheist or not an atheist, it doesn't matter. And if you've seen the Book of Egypt, or the Book of Egypt, excuse me, I was thinking of the Book of Exodus, but if you've seen the Prince of Egypt, what were some of the things in that movie, in your opinion, that really captured the essence, that really captured the overall feel and the tone of the movie? And I'm not saying that every single person liked the movie, but I'm just saying it was one of the most successful biblical movies ever. And it's just, if Prince of Egypt can do what they did, and it's 2019 and we still can't replicate that same thing. I'm not saying that there haven't been any other movies out like it after. Passion of the Christ was a debatable one. I personally liked it. It was a bit much. I'm not saying that everything has to be just as gory and everything like that, but I'm saying, what was something from the Prince of Egypt, if you liked it, and if you haven't seen it, go watch it and then maybe come back to the video and tell me. But what was something that you liked about it? What was something that really made it feel as if you were connecting with the story and what the biblical account was actually trying to say? As also, I feel like I should urge you guys to maybe go watch that movie and then watch like a modern Christian movie. And I'm not saying all modern Christian movies are bad. I'm not saying that, but I'm just urging you guys, maybe you guys should go watch Prince of Egypt and then go watch like a modern Christian movie and tell me the differences and similarities. Some people might actually come back and say, well, they think that the modern Christian movie was probably better than Prince of Egypt. And I know that they try to make the modern Christian movies, well, more modern and up to date with what's going on in this world and how things run now. But Prince of Egypt was about a story that, obviously took place thousands of years ago, and it was, like, again, one of the most successful movies. I'm not saying like, oh, everything has to be like it, but I'm just saying what elements, especially for Christian producers and people like me who are actually trying to come out with a Christian comic turned TV show. I'll get into that. It'll be a separate video. But what are some things that you would want to see in Christian movies and TV shows nowadays? What is something about Prince of Egypt? What is something about modern movies? What's something that you like from the modern movies that you wish that they would emphasize more? What's something you don't like about modern movies that you wish that you wish that they would take out? And same thing with the Prince of Egypt. If there's anything that you didn't like, because it wasn't perfect, but what was something about Prince of Egypt that you didn't like? Okay, what was something about Prince of Egypt that you liked that you wish was emphasized more? Certain things like that, because I really feel like the Christian community is trying to push out movies, but they're not really gaining any ground. We have movies like, and this is just for an example. If you guys don't know who Rob Skiba is, basically he's a pretty big person within the community. Whether you agree with what he teaches or not, flat earth or not, that's not the point I'm trying to get here. But look him up. If you type in Rob Skiba flat earth, he's a biblical person, Christian, who believes the earth is flat and everything. But that's not what I'm trying to say. That's irrelevant. One of the things I'm trying to say is he's also a filmmaker and everything like that. He's traveled around the world. He's a traveler, everything. But I remember I was watching one of his videos that he had a while back, and he was looking at how modern Christian movies compared to certain movies, like, for example, I think he had like the Book of Eli and The Matrix and those kinds of movies, comparing it to modern Christian movies and how they gross over a lot more. Let's just say it took them $3 million to make the movie. Let's just say this is for Christian movies, but they only maybe got, or not $3 million to make the movie. Let's just say it took them $100,000 to make the movie, and they only got $150,000 back, just for example. But then you have movies like The Matrix and stuff like that, and the Book of Eli, who have kind of like biblical themes as well in it. And let's say it took them $500,000 to make a movie, but then they got back $2 million. And not to say like, well, the bigger the budget the better, because that's not always true. You know what I mean? And I just feel like it's just with how the story is told. It doesn't necessarily have to do with how much money you put into a movie. It doesn't have to do with how much the budget is. It has to, like, yes, of course, more money can buy better things, but I feel like what people really want is a good story that can flow well. If the visuals don't have to be perfect. Yes, the Prince of Egypt obviously had amazing visuals and everything like that. But I've seen movies that's had amazing visuals, but the movie sucks. Money doesn't mean a good movie. A lot of money doesn't mean a good movie. You could have not a lot of money and still have one of the greatest movies ever. So yeah, Prince of Egypt. I know I keep saying that. Joseph King of Dreams was I think it was the one following. I think that movie came out in 2000, also made by DreamWorks. But yeah, and what are some of the things that you guys would like to see? Because I'm trying to personally come out with a comic, and I feel like with this thing, I'm not going to go too specific about it. I'm not going to go into details, but I really am looking, and I'm trying to take a lot of inspiration from a lot of Christian movies, from a lot of Christian TV shows, and I'm trying to determine what is it about these shows that doesn't make it so great, what is it about these shows that does make it great. And I feel like at the end of the day, it comes back to literally just taking what's in the Bible and putting it into the shows, because the Bible is real. Okay, the Bible is one of those books that convicts you. No one likes talking about what's in the Bible because it convicts them. Okay, God talks about things that we don't like to hear. It convicts us. He has imagery for us that's just like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm not saying that's what people gravitate towards too, but I just feel like the irony behind it all is like, we don't like talking about those things, or even like to seeing, or we don't like to see death and stuff like that. But it's kind of like when you put that stuff in a movie, for some reason that attracts people. Not necessarily because people like death and sadness, but because people can empathize and or sympathize with the main character who's going through and or experiencing certain things to the level of degree to which the Bible has it. The Bible wasn't always death and destruction, but you get my point. Since it was written by real people, Holy Spirit inspired authors, and their experiences and their journey in whatever book it was real. They were human, so they experienced things like we did. But it's like whenever we watch these Christian movies, at least nowadays, some of them, a lot of them, you don't like, you feel what they're trying to go for, but it's just kind of a miss because it doesn't feel realistic. It's like, in a sense, there's something about them that's missing. There's just something about them that's just like, it makes them miss their humanity or something like that. And then just the overall tone and the setting of the story, whether even if they try to make it dark, you just have this mindset, oh, I'm watching a Christian movie, so then you have already this preconceived notion that it just already has some kind of a good feel beat, some good feel beat to it, you know what I mean, like this movie. And when you watch Prince of Egypt, I tried to go into that with that expectation. I used to watch it ever since I was a kid. Maybe that's why it's my favorite. But now when I come back with a more critical eye, I obviously spot things I don't like too much, inconsistencies or whatever. But just the imagery, the feel, it didn't feel like it was just this good upbeat movie like a lot of Christian movies do. They'll try to make it feel dark or sad or real, but they still have this upbeat feeling to it, which it takes away from the realistic aspect of the movie. And when I was watching Prince of Egypt, it didn't feel that way. It didn't really feel like it was just this upbeat. It felt like you were legitimately following the journey of the main character, Moses, and obviously things happen along the way, things good and things bad. The movie wasn't complete darkness and chaos and destruction. No, they had a lot of funny scenes in there. They had a lot of quirky and just laughable scenes in there. But it didn't feel like just this upbeat kind of movie where at the end of the day, no. Maybe it's because we go into the we go into the expectation that since we know the story of Moses, we know it wasn't all fun and games, obviously, but they still added funny elements to the movie while maintaining the overall kind of feel and tone of the actual story. So I feel like maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just the preconceived notions and biases that get in our way that can determine a movie, because that can happen as well. But anyway, I don't want to make this video any longer than it has. It's 20 minutes of me talking. I'm really sorry. But yes, what do you guys think? Whether you're a returning subscriber, whether you're a new subscriber, what are you guys thinking? And concerning the future of my channel, I will be talking about that in another video, and it actually has to do with this comic turned TV show. That's how I want it to be. It has to do with that, and it does have to do with kind of like what I'm talking about right now. And yeah, that'll totally be in another video. But I thank you guys for listening. Please leave your thoughts and opinions and everything down in the comment section. Share this with your family and friends. I really do believe we need like another Prince of Egypt kind of movie out, because those are the kinds of movies that will get people to Christ. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people, if not to say, well, like, oh, you need to convert after watching this movie, but you want to get people to think about some things, like, oh, okay, well, for someone who isn't, I'm not saying they have to convert after or anything like that, but for someone who isn't a Christian and they're watching it, it's just like, wow, that actually made me think. It actually makes me want to go research, and it actually makes me want to ask questions. Whether I still believe it or not, we want people to still ask questions, because at the end of the day, we're trying to nitpick their brains, and we're trying to get them to think about, obviously, the things, God would like them to think about in terms of existence and creation and stuff like that. I'm not saying, like I said, not conversion or anything, right away or anything crazy like that, but I'm just saying, because Prince of Egypt, we need another one of those movies. But yeah, I thank you guys for listening. I know I didn't really provide like, I didn't show a lot of like, statistics or anything like that. This is just more so me kind of going about what I think. But I know I'm not the only one that has this kind of mindset, but I just thought I'd put it out there. Thank you guys for listening. Have a blessed day. Share the video if you'd like, and I'll see you in the next video.